I'd like to call to order the November 4th, 2019 meeting of the Heritage Preservation Board. Could we introduce everyone that's up front here, starting with Ms. Yonkers?
Kimberly Yothers, Secretary to the Board.
Bill Sprecher.
Laura Milford, Board Member.
Kara Johnson, Chairperson.
Patricia Cornell, Member.
Kathy Hallett, Member.
Patrick Perez, Board Attorney.
Pat Nice, Principal Planner.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Milford,
Here.
Ms. Cornell,
Here.
Ms. Hallett,
Here.
Mr. Sprecher.
Here.
Okay, so now is the time for any public comments. If anybody wants to talk about anything not related to the two cases that are on the agenda. If so, if you'd come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the October 7th meeting, 2019.
I make a motion that the minutes be accepted as read.
I second it.
Kim, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Sprecher,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes.
Ms. Cornell,
Yes.
Ms. Milford,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Okay, so the minutes are approved as submitted. Let's see, I guess we need to elect a vice chair.
Yes, so Madam Chair, the way your rules are written, anyone can nominate anyone for vice chair, and you can nominate yourself. There can be multiple nominations. After the nominations are done, then we will take a vote on any or the person that has been nominated.
And do we do that by roll call? Or is that-
So what you'll do is you as the chair will call for a nomination.
Okay.
If none is made, you should pass the gavel and then nominate someone.
Okay.
But hopefully someone can nominate someone. And then after the nominations are over, then we will do a vote by a straw poll vote or a roll call vote.
Okay, okay. So, are there any nominations for vice chair?
I would like to nominate myself.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Kim, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Sprecher,
I know. What's your name again?
Laura.
Laura. I vote for Laura.
Ms. Hallett,
Laura.
Ms. Cornell,
Yes, Laura.
Ms. Milford,
Yes, I'll vote for myself.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Congratulations. All right, could we have the quasi-judicial announcement?
Yes. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Heritage Preservation Board acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board tonight wishing to disclose any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest?
No.
Any members of the public wishing to speak tonight, or if you think you may speak, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So sworn.
Okay, I guess we're ready for the first application. First application is application 19-106, 316 West Lemon Street, replace existing roof on a non-contributing structure. We have a staff report?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the minutes. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, the first application is CA 19-130, 204 Cypress Street, new signs.
Yes, and this is an application to place 2 new signs at an existing non-historical, non-contributing property at 204 Cypress Street. This is in a special area plan district. And referring to page 3 of the staff report, just an outline of some of the highlights on this. This is a mini storage warehouse use, and the signs are proposed to be placed on one of the mini storage buildings located at the corner of Cypress Street and Safford Avenue. The signs will be placed at the north end and at the south end of that building. These are channel letter signs of 1/4-inch painted aluminum material, and the building is non-historic, non-contributing, and the signs do not interfere with the character and feel of the historic district. Staff is recommending approval of the application, requesting to place 2 new wall signs at this non-historic, non-contributing property, and the applicant is responsible for obtaining all required permits. This was properly noticed, and there were no responses received.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to add anything to the staff report? Can you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, William Kokenauer. Address is 4986 Turtle Creek Trail, Oldsmar, Florida, 34677. Basically, everything that Pat mentioned as far as the signs on the mini storage building is adequate north and south elevation. Working on trying to fix up that area, so hopefully you guys will grant approval of adding the signs, and hopefully see what we've done in that area, trying to fix the buildings up and improve the downtown area. Thank you.
And does anyone on the board have any questions for the staff or the applicant?
I have a question. I went by there today, and these signs are already on the building, or these additional signs you're going to put on there? Or
Right, that was my question, too.
Are we approving something you've already done?
The signs are on the building. The applicant was notified when the signs went up that he needed building permits, so he applied for building permits after the fact, and he's going through the process to get those approved. So if the signs are not, and the signs do comply with the size restrictions, he still needs a building structural review. If you do approve this tonight, then I would sign off on the planning review portion of the building permit. If you do not, then the signs will have to come down or come into a design that you would approve.
Okay, but normally they apply for approval of the signs prior to signs going up. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And was there a reason why?
We hired a sign contractor in our contract. I'm not the contractor, I work for the owner, and I actually wrote the contract proposal, said, make sure you get permits and so forth. He obviously asked to get paid. I was like, just want to make sure the permit was not signed off and everything. Then we realized that he had not done so. So I went to the motions. Then we realized not only do you need this permit, you need Historic Preservation Board approval.
Okay.
So the contractor has not been paid, and I'm sorry that he decided to not go through the proper protocol to get this, but that's why we're here, trying to get it all resolved to check all the boxes off.
Thank you very much for that explanation. At least it
we
gives me an
appreciate
idea
your
of what
honesty.
happened.
Yep. Sorry for any confusion with that.
Any other questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, do we move forward with a motion? Does anyone want to make a motion on these signs?
I'll make a motion, okay, that we accept, I think it's CA 19-130 signs on existing signs on the building.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Sprecher,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes?
Ms. Cornell,
Yes.
Ms. Milford,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Okay, the motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you for,
Ms. Johnson, I heard 2 seconds. Who will it be?
I only heard Pat.
Okay.
What's that?
Did you second, Pat?
Yeah. Thank you. The next application is 19-136, 18 North Ring Avenue, replacement of existing windows on a contributing structure.
And this is a replacement, proposed replacement of all of the windows on the contributing structure at 18 North Ring Avenue. This is a frame vernacular structure in the special area plan district. And there are 16 windows on the primary structure consisting of aluminum and vinyl materials, and the applicant proposes to replace all of those with vinyl windows. This is a contributing structure to the local district, and it was built somewhere around 1926. All but 2 windows are aluminum or vinyl awning style windows, the current windows. The remaining 2 windows on the front of the building are fixed vinyl windows. And these window replacements occurred around 1980, according to the master site file form. And the applicant is proposing simple pane over pane, single hung design for all but the front 2 windows. Some of these are side moving horizontal and some are vertical, the pane over pane. The 2 fixed front windows right now are 24 light grid windows, and the applicant, as you can see from the product sheet in your packet, proposes to replace those with the same thing, the 24 light grid pattern. The material for all replacement windows is vinyl. All the existing windows have the wood frames, trim, and sills from the original building, so those are not proposed to be disturbed beyond normal maintenance and repair. And the windows are consistent with the character of the building's original style, and they actually are thought to be more sympathetic to the building's architecture and hopefully will be an improvement over what's on there now. The master site file form, if you looked at that, actually notes that the window replacement in 1980 is the unsympathetic alteration that kind of, brought the integrity down to some extent in the past. So window fenestration will not change. This is a size for size replacement, and again, the surrounds will be just maintained and repaired as needed with wood. And this replacement does comply with the Secretary's standards and the city's guidelines and meets the city's comprehensive plan. And staff is recommending approval of the application to replace all of the existing windows on the primary contributing structure with new vinyl windows, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant is responsible for obtaining all permits. And number 2, that all existing window surrounds, including frames, trim, and sills, shall be retained and shall not be disturbed beyond normal repair and maintenance. And this was properly noticed, and we did not receive any responses.
So just for my own clarification, the alteration that happened in 1980, that predates the establishment of the Heritage Preservation Board?
Yes.
Any other questions for staff? Would the applicant like to add anything? So please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Georgine Driotis, 930 Bayshore Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida. And I think everything that Ms. McNeese advised you of and everything that's in the paperwork is accurate. Windows were placed in the 1980s. Building is right down the street from here, and you can clearly see that those windows are not in any way, shape, or form sympathetic, as the word she used to describe them, to the building and the structure and what the Heritage Preservation Board, to my understanding, is all about. My wish in a couple of the buildings that I've bought in Tarpon is not to renovate them, but to restore them. So I'm trying to bring them back to what they would have looked like back then. These would not be wood frame windows, which would typically be painted white anyway, but they would be vinyl windows, which would be white. We would not paint them any bizarre colors. Matter of fact, if you pass the building, you will see it's done with respect to everything else other than those windows and frames waiting for this hearing and the permitting.
Any questions for the applicant?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
Chair?
Yes.
I know no one's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak for or against this application? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept 19136, 18 North Ring Avenue, their window replacements.
I'll second that.
I'm going to pass the gavel. I'd just like to recommend amendment to the motion to include the first and second recommendations of the staff members.
So the chair has asked, would you, and you don't even have to amend your motion. Can you clarify, is your motion to accept the application with staff's recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, so then you don't have to,
Okay.
so just for clarification, the motion is to accept the application with the recommendations from staff.
Okay?
And it has been motioned and seconded.
Okay. We have a roll call, please?
Mr. Sprecher,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes.
Ms. Cornell,
Yes.
Ms. Milford,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Congratulations, the application carries.
And it's a great-looking house.
Thank you so much. We get
Yeah.
a lot of people stopping by over there.
Yeah, it
And we
looks
really
great.
appreciate your effort to bring these places back to what they
Appreciate
had
your
once
time.
looked like.
Thank you.
Staff comments?
Yes, I have 3 items. We do have an appointment apparently for our vacant seat. That's scheduled for tomorrow night, and if you're going to ask me who it is, I don't know. So that's scheduled for tomorrow night's Board of Commissioners meeting. Apparently, the clerk does have an applicant for that. And there's been some question a little bit about packet pickups. And as I can't remember if I told you, but Heather Erwiler, our director, had resigned. She's been gone for a couple weeks now. So we're a little short staffed again in the office. So when you come in, we're sometimes on the phone or somebody's at lunch or whatever. I would say as far as picking up paper packets, if you could call ahead or let us know you're coming, we could leave it up with the security guard. We don't like to leave all the stacks up there all week because they get lost and jumbled. And if there's any issue with picking up that paper packet, let us know and we'll try to accommodate. But the guard obviously does not know all the boards. There are too many boards for him to, especially the Thursday, Friday, because that's been a changing seat. That the security guard, Board of Commissioners, I think he's got down, but so that's been kind of a challenge. So if you could work with us on that, and we'll get the packets to you. Good news, we've got a consultant approved by the Board of Commissioners for the design guidelines. We don't have a contract yet. I expect that to be signed in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting on the state to approve the contract form. So that consultant, they're called JMT Incorporated, and they're right here in Tampa, and we have 3 architectural historians that we're going to be working with on the project. It does not look like we have any applications, at least to date, for next month for you, so I don't know if we'll have a meeting next month. But because we're a little crunched for time now on this, we're going to try to hit the ground running, and I think we'll have a workshop probably in January sometime, whether it's your regular meeting time or a special time, I don't know, but I would say over the holidays, if we don't see you next month, go ahead, take a look at those guidelines, anything you want from me, any research or historical materials on, how those were developed or what documents we have, I will try to locate and send you. I may send you some stuff that I've already thought of anyway independently. And just think about those and kind of have your list ready, and we'll be coordinating with you ahead of time on a workshop here with you guys.
Is it at all possible that we might be able to meet with the contractor at the time for the December meeting, since that's already on people's calendars? Just to kind of jumpstart?
Yeah, I don't, well, we could have the contractor come. I mean, that's an idea. I don't know that we'll be ready for a workshop.
Right.
So if the idea would be for them to just come and gather, just gather your thoughts for a workshop, that would be good. The other thing is we want to develop a public participation framework. It might be emails. I've got to work all that out. And so I want to be careful that the public knows that they're going to be heard, because this is something that's important to everybody. So that's an
Well, I was
idea.
really just thinking it'd be nice for the board members to meet the contractor before the workshop, so they had some idea who they're working with. And
I could certainly shoot for that, and I expect to have a kickoff meeting sometime, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and we'll let you guys know.
And the other thing we had talked about before, when we get to the public, to also make sure we reach out to former board members who had struggled with the guidelines through the years and would definitely have some good input.
Okay, yeah. That's it.
Is that it? Okay. Any board comments?
I have a couple of comments that I know that this has already been ruled on with these commissioners and the mayor, but I want to go over a couple of things and tell you where I come from on the standpoint of this, and ask questions to both Pat, the city, and to the attorney, because I need a little clarification on some things. And I want to give you a little background on me so you understand where my thought process comes from. I've have probably a little over 20 years background in reading legal documentation and guidelines to see if the documents are meeting the criteria set forth, and the rulings being on the criteria, not based on any partiality or anything else, not opinions, not likes or dislikes. It's regulations, so you don't approve or disapprove something because you don't like it or you think it would be beautiful or whatever. It has to be on guidelines, and that's the way I feel about the heritage preservation, that we are supposed to look at it and look at the guidelines set forth and see, does this application meet the Secretary of State guidelines?
Wow.
Do we need to check that? Okay. And see if it meets those guidelines. And if it does, we approve. If it doesn't, on any part, we deny. And what happened with the church, on one of the Secretary of Interior's guidelines, said that we are not supposed to take a property that is one architectural style and transform it into another. I understood the church requires that it be Byzantine, but that goes against the Secretary of Interior guidelines. Also, in that same breath, the church owned that property for many years and did not maintain it. And so them not maintaining it, it deteriorated. And now they've appealed and has been changed with the commissioners and the mayor for them to get an exception on that and do what they want. In the light of being a resident, how do you justify this to other people, other businesses, and other residents that come in and say, well, you approved this from the church and they got away with it. How come I can't get away with it? So it puts us in that, in my mindset, how do you justify that? Because it still goes back to the regulations state this, and we were overturned. We're a historic district. How is this going to affect the historic district? Does this affect the state our standing with the state? Could it? Could we lose our designation as a historical district when this kind of thing happens?
Two things. One, the first is this board, your board does not set precedent, meaning every single case is completely different.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter. You could approve 100 in a row and deny one because of one criteria. So there is no precedent setting.
So a resident can't come in and say, well, there was a precedent set when you did this.
There is no such thing as precedent in a quasi-judicial
So you would be
hearing.
able to defend that in court and say, no, there is no precedent.
Correct. Yes, that is one thing, and we hear that a lot with all the boards, but there is no precedent. And it cannot be set because of this exact issue.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
So a follow-on to her question, does the Board of Commissioners have to abide by the same standards that we do?
On what?
Well, when
To
they
overturn ours.
review an appeal, are they held to the same criteria? that-
It depends, and because I was not a process with that particular application, I don't feel comfortable giving you an answer. But yes, knowing that the BOC, the way the rules are written is the BOC has the final say.
Yes, I understand that.
So,
Well, even one of the commissioners at that meeting, because I went back and watched them, if you didn't watch it on September the 10th, I think it was, and the other one was the 20th or 24th, one of the commissioners flat out asked, was there any kind of possibility to make some kind of compromise? Well, on the guidelines, it will say shall not, or if there's a possibility for an exception, it will state this or that, and once it says shall not, you shall not change the architectural style to change it to another architectural style. That shall not can't be done, and they did not clarify that with the commissioner who asked that question that night. He never really got a clarification of his question, and so that made me wonder, why not? And does the commissioners really look at those Secretary of Interior guidelines and see what we saw and why we ruled that way?
I'm not trying to sound crass, but it sounds like the issue is with the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
So
I'll
that's
probably go
who you
and
have to
talk.
address.
I'll go in and address it because I want to know why.
And I can answer the question on our certification. So we're a certified local government, which means we've adopted a code, adopted guidelines, we've set up a board, we hear cases, and we keep minutes. And basically, when you are a certified local government, it basically means that you are in charge of your own historic, standards, destiny kind of thing. The state does not regulate whether you follow your guidelines or not. They just want to know you have a process in place. So our certification is not in danger when this happens. And maybe Patrick can help me with this, but you do have standards that you are required to look at. Under the appeals section, it just says the Board of Commissioners shall conduct a public hearing at which time they may affirm, modify, or reverse the decision of the board of the HPB. So they have the power to do that. And
I understood that. I
yeah.
did. I don't like it when they say, oh, you should have used common sense. Common sense is not part of our board. It's the law, it's the regulations. Does it meet the criteria or not? And when you see that in writing in the Beacon, that they're questioning whether or not we have any common sense, that's offensive. Mm-hmm. Just flat out, that's offensive. It offended me very deeply.
Which begs another question. Should we make a concerted effort to have a member of the HPB at present when the commissioners are addressing an appeal?
we have had members come to appeals. In fact, we had 2 former members at that appeal that spoke.
Yes, former mayor.
So, yeah, and I do I will say, I apologize, I missed, we didn't have a meeting in September, and I think the appeal was discussed when you guys heard it, so everybody kind of thought they would file it, but I should have probably emailed you, and I just
You did
missed
email
that.
us
chance.
you did email us
Did
after.
I?
Yeah, you
Yes,
did.
I- Okay, but, yeah, you know, that, we do have members show up on appeals, and even past members, and it's perfectly something that you can do, and speak to them and explain why you made your decision the way it was, and,
I
you
wished
know.
I had been in attendance because I would have spoke on that. But unfortunately, I found out after the fact.
Yeah, and I did as well. And what I'm actually advocating for is that we make a concerted effort to have an active board member at those meetings. And I know we can look at the commissioner's agenda and know that something's coming up, but if you could email us ahead of time, I mean, I understand the September.
And I
thing
did look at the Septembers, but I did it, and it didn't show anything for September for this appeal. And then after that date, it was too late. I missed the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, thank you very much for
Okay.
discussing this with me. It makes me feel a little bit better. I am analyzing it correctly from what I understand.
You are.
It's not opinion, it's not respect of person, whether it be business or an individual. It's supposed to be equally fair to all people throughout Tarpon, whether that's church or business or anything else. The only other comment that came up during those meetings was the church gets some kind of exception to the rules and not like regular applicants, and I didn't understand that. The attorney quoted something there, and I'm like, I need to find out, is there an exception of some kind when it comes to the Greek Orthodox Church when we rule on them?
They were referring, then you're talking about the applicant's attorney. They were referring to designation of buildings and properties. The subject property was a contributing property
Right.
in a designated district. The property itself had no individual significance. So, I mean, you know, this is kind of after the fact, so I guess
Yeah, it
my
is after
belief
the
is
fact,
that
but
does
something like
not
this may happen
apply.
again, and I want to know.
Yeah, and I think the attorney at the board also said it does not apply, if
Okay.
I remember right.
Thank you very much. That's all I had to say.
Any announcements?
Nothing else?
Okay, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 7:02.
Okay.